Hi, this is Jeannette Van Houten from Advancing Opportunities in New Jersey. Check out my blog at www.jvanhouten.blogspot.com, and you're listening to A.T.TIPSCAST.
Welcome to the A.T.TIPSCAST, exploring and investigating the implementation of assistive technology in public schools. I'm your host, Chris Bouguet. This is episode number 49, recorded on February 6th, 2010. Do you know what the Kobayashi Maru is? It was once an obscure sci-fi reference, only known by the sci-fi geek elite, but in the summer of 2009, a summer blockbuster brought it back as a more prominent event in sci-fi lore. Still not sure? Here's an original soundbite to get your mind working.
Well, Mr. Savick, are you going to stay with the sinking ship?
Permission to speak candidly, sir.
Granted.
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities.
And why not?
Because there was no way to win.
A no-win situation is a possibility every commander may face. Has that never occurred to you?
No, sir. It is not.
How we deal with death is at least as important as how we deal with life, wouldn't you say?
As I indicated, Admiral, that thought had not occurred to me.
Well, now you have something new to think about. Carry on.
No? Still not ringing any bells? How about this clip from a little bit later on in the movie?
The Kobayashi Maru, sir.
Are you asking me if we're playing out that scenario now?
On the test, sir. Will you tell me what you did? I would really like to know.
Lieutenant, you are looking at the only Starfleet cadet who ever beat the no-win scenario.
I don't like to lose.
Then you never faced that situation. Faced death.
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
The Kobayashi Maru is a ship/test in the Star Trek universe. It was programmed by Spock for would-be starship captains to see how they'd deal with a situation in which there was no favorable outcome, or, to put it another way, to see how they'd handle losing. James T. Kirk, however, believes there's no such thing as an unwinnable situation. He believes there's always a way to win, even if that means you have to tinker with the tools to do so. Kirk fudges with the internal components of the Kobayashi Maru exercise, which allows him to find a way out of the situation without losing, which is a perfect analogy for AT.TIP number 75, AutoCorrect in Word. So you've got a student who consistently spells a word wrong. For example, let's say the student always spells the word any, A-N-Y, with E-N-Y, substituting the A with an E. Despite rigorous attempts to try and teach the correct spelling, every time the student tries any, he spells it E-N-Y. When he goes to spell check the document, rather than looking through the choices, this student does what most any other student does and picks the first word in the list, which happens to be NV, not NE. So, after a while, you decide to implement a method of errorless learning. That is, rather than letting the student continue to make this mistake over and over and over again, therefore practicing and reinforcing the incorrect spelling of the word, you decide to fix it so that when the student types E-N-Y, it automatically changes to A-N-Y. Just like Kirk and the Kobayashi Maru, you've messed with the internal components so that the student has a chance at succeeding, rather than having every option be a losing option. So, how do you change it so that when a student types in a misspelled word, it's replaced with another one? Well, to keep things concise, I'm just going to explain how to do this in Microsoft Word 2007, but this works in other versions of Word as well. And of course, it's all over at the blog ATTIPSCAST.wordpress.com. If it's possible, open up Word as you listen to this next part of the podcast. If you're listening sometime where you don't have access to Word, you can always just try this later. Go to the Office button, that's the circle button in the top left corner of Word, and select Word Options. Choose Proofing, then AutoCorrect Options. A new window will appear. A top section of this window has a bunch of check marks that are probably already selected. Some of the items here are correct to initial capitals, capitalized first letter of sentences, capitalized names of day, and more. In the bottom section of this window, you'll see two boxes. The first is the Replace box, and the second is the With box. So, in the case of our student who spells any, E-N-Y, you type in E-N-Y in the Replace box, and ANY in the with box. Once you click OK, the next time a student makes the mistake spelling it ENY, it will automatically be replaced with ANY. He is seeing the correct spelling even though he spelled it the wrong way. Below the replace and with boxes, you'll see a table of all the defaults, along with any things you've added. Granted, all of what I just said is better understood when you have a visual in front of you to help you go through it. But for now, just try to get the concept that by using AutoCorrect, you're setting Word to automatically replace one set of characters with a different set of characters. There are a couple other cool uses of this feature beyond just spelling practice. 1. Anytime you have a very long word that a student needs to type, you can make it shorter this way. So, for instance, if a student were doing a report or telling a story or answering questions about, let's say, Washington, D.C., and that student had trouble spelling Washington, D.C., or for motoric reasons had trouble typing Washington, D.C., you could use AutoCorrect so that all the student would need to do is type D.C., and in the document, it would come up as Washington, D.C. Think how many keystrokes could be saved, and how much time would be saved, if a student only needed to type D.C. rather than Washington, D.C. Although students with cerebral palsy are the first to come to mind as individuals who might benefit from this, like I said, cutting down on keystrokes might benefit any student. 2. Along those same lines, names can be shortened this way so that the student doesn't have to type in his entire name. Typing CRB would produce Christopher R. Bouguet on the screen, again speeding up typing time. This would also work for author names, historical figures, scientific terms, and more, like book titles. For instance, I could set it up so that if I were about to type the book title, The Practical and Fun Guide to Assistive Technology in Public Schools, which comes out in April 2010, learn more over at isti.org/ChewAT, I could just type PFG and it would come out as the full title. Number 3, practical jokes. Go over to your friend's computer. Open up AutoCorrect and replace their first name with "Your computer has crashed," or "I'm watching you," or "You spelled your name wrong." There's just tons of things you can do to mess with your family and friends by replacing one word with another. Number 4. Finally, one other way to use this feature is to teach students appropriate behavior. Every time they use Word and type something that is less than appropriate, like an expletive, when they type one of those words, something like, "That isn't a very nice word," or "Maybe you should choose something more appropriate," or "That makes me sad," or some other comment that shows the student that those words are not acceptable and that their teacher is pretty clever, can appear on the screen. So, there you go. Now you're all set to erase those reoccurring mistakes before they even happen. One word of caution here, typically these changes are only made locally to one computer. That is, when the student goes home, those abbreviations won't work on the home computer. So, as you create abbreviations or add things to AutoCorrect, it's a good idea to make a list of changes and send them home to the parents, who can also make the changes to the home computer. The Kobayashi Maru, or Kirk's attitude toward it, is also an excellent parallel for how to approach assistive technology. One principle to live by, as an assistive technology trainer, is that there's always something that can be tried. There's always something that can be done. When it comes to student achievement, there is no such thing as an unwinnable situation. If a student is struggling to meet a goal, we find things to try with that student. If you like that philosophy, then you might like to know that you can read more about it in April of 2010 when the book The Practical and Fun Guide to Assistive Technology in Public Schools hits shelves. Don't forget you can sign up to get notified via email by going to www.isti.org/ChewAT. Like how I did that? Slipped 2 little commercials for the book into this episode. Alrighty then. Finally, I'd like to thank everyone at ATIA and all those I met at ATIA. It was a great conference. I really enjoyed myself and I learned a ton. The best part for me was meeting a number of people in person who I previously had only met online. The sessions I presented went really well, and I learned a little something in every session I attended. It really made me yearn for the next conference. If you were there and we didn't get to meet, or if you weren't there and you'd like to collaborate virtually, send me an email at AT.TIPSCAST@gmail.com or join the A.T.TIPSCAST fan page over on Facebook. I'll have all that linked over at the blog, AT.TIPSCAST.wordpress.com. So until next time, may all your interventions be inclusive, may all your strategies be supportive, and may you live long and prosper.